Well, hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard for this virtual collage jam on Monday, June 22nd. And I am flying solo today. Kim is taking a break, and she has also just come off a 40-hour fast, which is something she is trying to do once a week. The last few weeks it's been 24 hours, and today it was 40 hours, and she's hoping to work up to more than that as part of making her Sundays a healthier day. So she will not be with us today. I'm kind of a little bit trepidatious doing my collage jam without my right-hand girl, but I'm sure we can make it work. It will be a little extra challenge, but I'm sure we can do it. So I am going to have to monitor the chat myself. So I'll be doing a little work, then looking at going up like this because I'm an old fart and my eyes don't work so well anymore to see what you're saying. So bear with me if I am a little bit sluggish getting in responding to your questions. And other than that, we can just get this party started. Today's theme is zigzag, and I looked up what a zigzag is, how a zigzag is defined. And a zigzag is defined as a line or course having abrupt alternate right and left turns. So it's pretty much what it says, but I like the use of the word abrupt because that definitely means like certain this one, then this way, and then this way, right? And that it isn't like one and then another one the same direction. It's always one, each in the opposite direction. So yeah, so I am just gonna say welcome aboard in the chat. Oh, and I am going to get going with, I haven't even got a plan. Isn't that funny? Isn't so? I am thinking that I might use a bunch of different papers. Hey, Val, welcome aboard. I'm thinking that I might use a whole bunch of different scales of zigzag. So like really fine, I've got the requisite pinking shears with me for really fine zigzag. And then I'm also thinking some sort of hand cut ones that are bigger and bigger, and then playing with different zigzags cut out of different things. So we'll see how that goes. Hey, Jane, welcome back. A long time no see. Jane was in my morning collage new directions through Nielsen Park. So hope you managed to get a little lunch in, Jane, and are doing well. A little more freewheeling, plenty of time to do what it is that you want to do. You'll also notice that I'm in a different location. I'm in my studio today. Chaotic as it very most certainly is. So Val, Jane, are you guys thinking of doing zigzag as well, or are you thinking of doing your own thing? What materials have you brought with you? Anything fun, I hope? Something fun? I'm going to just start cutting a bunch of zigzags, but I'm also going to keep tabs on the chat. So this one that I used for my sort of placeholder is much too big, I think, because I think I'm gonna, I like my small side, so I'm going to use my 6x6 inch, I think, and try yet again to try and finish something. Who knows? That might be a vain hope. Hello, Edith. Welcome aboard. Oh, you've got sunshine there. That's excellent. Excellent. I'm so glad to hear it. We've had some sun. We had some very warm weather, above 30 degrees yesterday, but it's overcast today. So it's the sun isn't shining, but it's not beating down on us. Ruth. Hi, Ruth. How are you? Um, I'll uh, I'll tell you about Kim in a second. Welcome aboard. And hey, Rebecca. Good to see you. And hi, Ricky. Welcome back. You may notice that I am without my darling right hand girl today because she just finished a fast, and something she's been working on the last few weeks is a 24-hour fast on Sundays. And so she has today she went longer than that. She went 30 hours, so she went well into today. And so she is a little wan right now, and she's eating, and it won't be herself for a little while yet. So she won't be joining us, but she'll be back when I'm back on in 2 weeks on July 13th. Hello, Gerda. Welcome aboard. And Francoise is asking how it went on Saturday. Not very many people, but who did show up, it was really lovely. So Rebecca, who's along with us today, she and her husband Kirk came all the way from, was it Victoria Park in Ellesmere, which is the way far other side of the city. Drove all the way over here. Hopefully, I think she was combining it with another errand, but still, that's a long drive. And then one of my students, Diane, came all the way from Oakville to see it. But other than those guys and my neighbor and Lisa Robinson, who some of you may know, who worked at Visual Arts Mississauga and recently at Nielsen Park. She came because she lives in Brampton, but other than a couple of neighbors, not very many, because we're in a very quiet area. So me and there was one other artist in all of Brampton as taking part in the National Arts Drive, whereas I looked at a friend who's an artist who was doing it in the Beaches area of Toronto, which is very artist dense, and there were just like the map was dotted with all these different artists exhibiting, and I thought, well, that's going to be a much more rewarding place to walk and drive around. So Gerda says, faithful as ever. Yes, excellent. And yeah, no, Ruth, I am the kind of person who needs to eat frequently. I'm trying to fast a little longer overnight because that's supposed to be useful, but I am the kind of person who can't go without food. But she's doing great. She's actually getting better at each time, better and better. So thanks for saying hello, Mia. Welcome aboard. I'm sorry you had trouble finding me. I've noticed, but you've made your way here finally, which is good. When I do Kim's studio party, she goes live and she starts talking, and I'm like hitting refresh until she finally shows up. So it just takes a little patience sometimes. I don't know what the delay is, but there are definitely a few, sometimes it's like 3 or 4 minutes until from the time she went live till the time I could actually see her. So anyway, you made it. Welcome aboard. Hi, Joy. Yes, it was a great idea. I think it really depends. They had a hashtag, so I went on Instagram and looked up National Arts Drive and saw people exhibiting all over the continent, whole range of talents, and like some people were playing music on their driveways and front lawns, which was lovely. And lots of painting, as you would expect. Some dancers. I didn't see any videos of dancers, but definitely saw some pictures of some dancers. So, and it just depends on the neighborhood you're in, right? We're in a relatively sort of suburban, sleepy area. We have one neighbor who I had forgotten about, but she's artsy, and she saw my poster that I put up, and she said she came and she brought her mom, and she said, "Oh my God, Mom, there's something interesting happening in Brampton. We have to go." So, oh, and hello, Annie. Welcome aboard. Yeah, don't worry about it. Father's Day is much more important. And hello, Adele. So Adele, you also had trouble. I'm so sorry that you had trouble finding it. I went live right at 2. but yeah, I was talking to, there was no one showing up in the chat for the first 3 or 4 minutes at least. So anyway, I'm glad you guys are finding your way there. And so I'm going to start doing some zigzagging, and let me know in the chat what you are thinking of. I asked that earlier, and I'm just going to go back and make sure. And Val says that she's going to do some zigzags using maps. Oh, maps, that's fun. Because zigzag is kind of, you often talk about zigzag in terms of the path that someone's taking, right? Oh, they're drunk, so they're like zigzagging one way then the other way. Or it's also like a sailboat tacking, right? So that's kind of cool. And Jane says, oh yes, I'm working on Mr. Ziggy Zag. That is, I'm looking forward to seeing his portrait. Hello, Mira, welcome aboard. Good to see you again. Glad you can make it. And so I am just going, so I'm going to be turning away sometimes, so I apologize. I'm in my studio, which is fairly tight quarters. I'll try and orient myself enough that I don't have to turn away too much. And I'm just going to keep it really simple today. Famous last words, right? But I'm going to try and keep it simple. Let's put it that way. I'm just going to do some different scale zigzags and just see how they interact with each other. Is my audio okay when I'm talking away from, I assume it's better when I'm talking directly at the computer, but let me know if you have trouble hearing me if I turn away and start talking like I am right now, if that's a problem or not. Yes, drunk walking, Annie, absolutely. You could do like footprints. There's also a certain rhythm to it, right? That it's you could do a zigzag that was more one direction and a little less the other direction, so that it had like long rungs and short rungs too. Sound is fine. Good. Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate that. That's good. Okay, perfect. Thank you, Mia. Good. Thanks, Joy. That is good. It's quite amazing. I have both Kim and I have, well, mine's more recent, but we both have Mac laptops, and I have to say that for built-in stuff, the mic and the camera is actually pretty good, given that they're just what comes in the computer. So I taught at VAM. I taught a course in using Zoom, and they had a bunch of instructors who had never used Zoom before, and I was only very new to it. So they had one instructor who had a lot of experience teaching online, taught us, and she and her husband have been doing it for many years, so they knew all the things. And so he had a list of all the tech that you needed to buy. And then at the bottom it said, if you have a recent Mac, you don't need any of this. It's like, that was good. Because they didn't have to buy a separate camera, a sound card, microphone, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. One of the things Kim and I are going to be doing this summer is improving our setup for teaching from home and doing our collage jam and our virtual studio party, getting some smaller lights. We have lights that we use that are they're effective, but they're soft boxes and they're relatively bulky. Whereas you can get these very flat, small, compact light panels of LEDs that are good. And so we're going to get some of those, and we're going to, Kim already has a good microphone that she bought a few years ago because she was thinking about doing a podcast. So we're going to try getting that set up and working an additional camera so that Kim's been doing it a little bit using her iPhone so that we can have something pointing down. Like for this one, right, I've been doing this, right? Like, here's what I'm doing, just moving my laptop. But won't it be nice if we can sort of figure out a way that you can see me and also what I'm working on? So, hello, Lillian. Welcome aboard from the Peg. What's the weather like in the center of the continent there, Lillian? So that's in the works for this summer and heading into next year. So don't want to cut my template, so I'll get that out of the way. And while this is a nice zigzag for the intro, I think it's too chunky, so I'm gonna cut that off. You never know, it may find its way back in, but I'm holding this up in the air and cutting on it. Oh, rainy, that's unfortunate. And I'm working over top of this very vibrant blue, and the complementary buzz is hurting my eyes. It's so zingy. Maybe I'll put that over there while I cut this. Green is at least a little better. I was just thinking this morning, I was teaching a collage course this morning, and I was talking about using knife versus scissors. And a zigzag is actually a good reason for scissors. It feels like it's a little easier. Now, it's not a precision zigzag by any means, but it does feel a little easier to change directions with the scissors than it does with the knife. And as soon as I say that, I start experiencing trouble. There we go. So what are people planning on doing this summer? If you're in the middle of collaging right now, don't worry about it. But when you come up for air, just let me know. I know that at least here in Ontario, things are opening up a little bit. They're trying to be cautious about it. And so Kim and I are going to be really cautious about it, but I know some people are heading up to the cottage and doing stuff, planning some day trips where they'll be not somewhere where there are going to be a ton of people and so on. Oh, that's a great idea. Lillian says when she's working on high contrast stuff, she uses her sunglasses. That's actually a brilliant idea, or non-brilliant idea, right? Less brilliant, which is what makes it so smart. Yeah, that's a great idea. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Mia, yes, I've got my pinking shears right here. They're going to factor in. Kim has one pair that she keeps in a case that are just for fabric, which is a good idea because paper dulls scissors like crazy. And this is the pair that we use for paper. And she said, just make sure you cut some tin foil after you're done with them, because that sharpens them again, at least somewhat. So good tip. I always forget that. The perfectionist in me looks at this zigzag and thinks, oh, that's just like so erratic. But that is the point, right? It should be fun. Let's see how the pinking shears do. Well, they only do the one size, but they do it really well, don't they? Yeah, it's pretty tasty. Of course, I can see the differences where it changed direction for each cut, but there you go. The voice of a perfectionist. I know, I'm trying to get better about it. Mia also uses blue tinted sunglasses. Oh, right, right. That's so. Those are for they're sort of approximate the some of the computers and phones have that night shift now to change the color. But yeah, that's a great idea for when you're on your computer late at night. Oh, Gerda, you seeing grandkids finally? That's a good thing, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely. Collage with the kids, they will love it. Kids are great for doing that and working on some paintings. Yeah, fixing up some paintings or revisiting some paintings that aren't quite working. That's a perfect thing to do during the summer. Yeah, the aluminum foil is great. Great tip. And apparently it works for scissors too. So, so that yeah, that's good to know. Val's spending time at the cottage, right, and get even more art done, right, because you got the river. You're a steady stream of art supplies, right? Hello, Alice. Welcome aboard. Yeah, nice to see you too. And thank you. Yeah, a bunch of you guys are going to be joining me for my collage course this summer, a little later this summer. So looking forward to that. Yeah, that's going to be fun. I have got a whole bunch of orange zigzags, but now I should get some other colors going. And maybe some out of some magazines too. Just grab a couple of those. Oh, hi, Nancy. That's great. So that's fine. Yeah, don't worry about chatting. If you're on an iPad and can't chat, that's no problem. You can at least see me and hear me. So great. Thank you. And Jane. Yeah, just pulling out stuff and seeing what. So that's your summer. What you're talking about, the summer. Yeah, absolutely. Good time to. Oftentimes there are fewer things going on in the summer course-wise or whatever, or other opportunities. So, and especially this summer, right? So it's a good time to sort of slow down, look through what you've got, reevaluate, maybe do some organizational stuff, revisit some work in progress. Yeah. Camping and RVing, Joy. That's a great idea. In fact, we're really sad because we have a camper van. But last year, we discovered that it has terminal chassis problems because I didn't rust-proof it enough. And so we have this camper that that's not safe to drive anymore. So it's going to be heading off to the scrap heap, sadly. And this is the year when, it would be amazing because it's a way to get away and still be somewhat, to yourself. So yeah, that's great. Yeah, and out west is the best place for camping and RVing with the mountains. Oh my goodness. I wish in fact, we were planning, not with the camper van because it's so brutal on gas, but we were planning a trip before COVID to go out west. So Ricky. Oh, congratulations, Ricky. Yay. She's made it to the Grandma Club yesterday. How exciting. Lovely. Ado Abraham Lee Kane. Wow. Triple A. That's hilarious. Oh, Asher, I missed that. It's on a separate line. That's why Asher Ado Abraham. Oh, she's gonna regret with that when when she has to call them out. As long as she doesn't name her next kids with an A name too, I guess. Because usually I only call one person by one name, right? So yeah, I'm losing my brain, but no big surprise there. Lillian, yes, and use the nightlight, yeah, which gives a peachy tint. Yeah, kind on the eyes, absolutely. Make a tiny home. Kim has been a big fan of tiny homes. She's followed she's known about them before anyone else knew about them. We have books on tiny homes, and we've thought about doing that as like something that we wanted to do for like a cottage per se, like find a piece of sort of out of the way land that's inexpensive, you know, not waterfront property or whatever, put a tiny cabin on it, and then put like a huge Quonset hut or something like that in which to do our art. But then we live in this like 100 square foot cabin, right, to sleep, eat, and basically sleep and eat and read or whatever. So yeah, cool. I love that idea. Lightning bolts with multicolored paper, Jane. Electrifying. Excellent. What? Just trying to find something that would be interesting to cut zigzags out of that isn't just flat color. I'm sure there are lots of things, but let's see what some of these look like. I really like the palette of this ad, so I'm gonna grab a couple of those pages of that. I think I said Jane with lightning bolt. Sorry, Joy. Hey, Zara, welcome aboard. Yeah, so Kim is okay. She's just she's taking some time off, and B, she's coming off a fast, and she's been fasting every Sunday, but today she fasted into Monday. She's trying to extend it gradually as she gets comfortable with it. So I'm flying solo today, which is kind of, it's sad to not have her along, but we'll make it work. Judy, your first grandchild. Oh, May 7th. Wow, exciting. Oh, and only, yeah, so are you planning any trips out that way? I guess it's, yeah. Not so many trips being planned these days. So hopefully we get a vaccine sooner rather than later, and that it's safe to use and all of those things. So. Oh, that's yummy. There's this ad with a sort of a purplish cast and then some out of focus colored lights in the background. So I've used that, and I just love that piece right there. Isn't that great? It's so tasty just as it is. Yeah, not for a bit, eh, Judy? Absolutely. Oh, that's a lot of scanning, Mia. 50 years of family photos. Wow. if Kim were here, she would probably have some tips, because I think there are some. I'm trying to think whether it's just for slides, but whether there's some scanning software has sort of degrees of automation, like it will straighten them automatically and stuff like that. So, but not being as techy as she is, I'm running out of possibilities right away or quickly. So sorry. A photo scanner. So Lillian says she bought a photo scanner and it sped things up. So if that's one that actually takes that size that we had so many photographs of, like 3x5 or 4x6, and you can sort of feed them through, that would definitely hasten things. There is a place in it's in the GTA. It's in Mississauga, and I'm trying to remember the name of it, where you can send either film or slides and probably photos too, and have them done efficiently, like for a reasonable price. Now, of course, it's not going to be as cheap as doing it yourself, but Digital Treasures, I think it's called, and they Kim's had Super 8 films and old slides, family slides done that way. I don't know whether they have something that's fast for actual prints, but you can look them up online, Digital Treasures. And I know that I think they mail, like you can send them stuff and they send it back all over the country, but it is a long way from Winnipeg. So especially to be sending off your favorite, your family treasures, right? So, and I'm hoping now, see, this is why it's good to have Kim, because I'm confusing Lillian's location with Mia's scanning. So Mia, I know you're not as far away as, so yeah. Yeah, so that's very cool that the library has a scanner. Because we're former designers, we're used to having scanners. Because we have some all-in-one printers, we have 1, 2, 3 scanners in the house. So, but you know, Epson all-in-one printers that can print, fax, copy, scan, are amazingly inexpensive and can be quite good for as a scanner, and quite good as printers too. So definitely worth looking into. They're quite inexpensive. The inks are more expensive, obviously, but some of the models now take larger ink tanks so that you can. Yeah, it depends on the. Yeah, we have a professional quality one as well. It's old now, but we just use our Epson scanner, and because our all-in-ones, depends. If you get a really low-end all-in-one, the scanner may not be that great, but I think ours is pretty good. But yeah, if you can get if the library one isn't too busy and it's high resolution, absolutely. It's always a trade-off with when you're scanning, because high resolution is great, but then past a certain point, it just makes the file way too huge. But if you're scanning from like a 35 millimeter, you want to be able to have very, very high resolution so that you can then blow it up and not have it be hopelessly low resolution. So Yeah, you book time at the scanner. Yeah, perfect. So as long as you don't have like 50 years worth like Mia does, well, maybe she could do it on an installment plan, like go every Sunday or whatever for a while. Yeah. I'm just reading your note, Mia. Yeah, or if you know someone who can just who maybe is in graphic arts who can just tell you what parameters to make sure you're using. Um, Generally 300 dpi or lpi lines per, like pixels per inch. 300 is good. So if you want it to be able to print 8.5 by 11, for instance, you want it to be 300 ppi or dpi at that size. If you make it higher, you can make it larger, but again, the file size goes up, so then you're using more of your storage space. So yeah. Yeah, exactly. You could check out with the library and maybe just get some information there and then decide whether or not you're going to do it at the library or get someone else to do it professionally or whether you can do it yourself. Something I really love a scanner for is, now it doesn't work for everything, but I like it for collages. As long as your collages are reasonably flat, if they have like dimension, like if you're using stuff that is high, right? It has dimension, then it doesn't work so well with scanning because then the depth of focus is very narrow with the scanner. So the part that's touching the glass will be in focus, but something even just like 1/8 of an inch above the glass will not be in focus. But as long as your collage is reasonably flat, and a lot of mine are usually flattish, it's a lot easier than shooting it with a camera where you're trying to make sure it's square and you're trying to make sure it's lit properly. I love being able to just like take a collage, throw it on the scanner, and scan it, and it usually looks great. A couple of things that when it doesn't, that I can't get this sentence off the ground. A couple of caveats. If you're using a fluorescent ink or fluorescent paper, fluorescent colors do not scan very well. It's like, oh, that's brilliant orange, and then you scan it, and it's like, bleh. Whereas when you take a photograph of it, it's not perfect. It still doesn't look fluorescent, but it looks better. Um, Yeah, Photoshop is now quite expensive because it's on a subscription basis. It's not that expensive on a month-to-month basis, but it adds up because you're paying every month. So Kim uses Creative Suite, the Photoshop. I'm still using like a version from like 10 years ago because I can't brook the paying 30 something dollars every month. But it just depends. So. Yeah, exactly, Joy. It depends on what your resources are, what who's around, what's available. That white sheet go, not that one. That one. That's kind of fun. Sorry, just talking to myself, but not really. Sort of talking to you and to myself. All right, I'm just gonna do that. Just gonna go for it. I'll be brazen and just go for it. So Annie is asked in the oh, you don't. Oh, okay. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, Francoise. It's kind of either or, isn't it? So there, at least you can see what I'm doing. And Annie is asking, what are some free photo editing apps, if anyone has any suggestions? And again, Kim would have suggestions. So we may have to ask her that when we're back in July. I know she's mentioned a name, but I can't remember what it is. But if anyone has any ideas, let Annie know what if you use them, if you think they're any good. Kim and I are on Mac, and while we are both good with, well, she's excellent with Photoshop, and I am okay with it. We often use the very basic photo looking at and editing tool called Preview on the Mac. And you can do a surprising number of things. You can sharpen, you can adjust exposure, you can adjust color balance, a whole bunch of basic things if you just go to adjust color. And it comes, if you have a Mac, it comes with it. So it's surprisingly effective. I often use it instead of Photoshop for quick and dirty image editing. And it's actually pretty good. It's not so good if you have to do fancy things like cutting stuff out or any of that stuff. But if you're just trying to improve the image quality, like exposure or color balance or contrast or those kinds of things, it's actually really useful. Yeah, sorry guys, that's much better. Oh, Adele, yeah, I'm sorry. It is there's just, and we just had a similar situation here. I don't know. I don't know about Atlanta, so I haven't followed that just yet. But it's like the police don't seem to know that they're heavily under scrutiny and that they're so out of step with the times. But it's what happens if you cut a whole bunch of social programs. Like, I know that's happened in spades in the States, but in a bunch of provinces, and Stephen Harper here, cut a bunch of social programs, but up the funding of the police, and then you end up with, like, there was just someone killed in Mississauga on Father's Day because they called for the police because he was being unruly, but he has a mental issue. And he ends up dead when they were calling for help. It's like, it's unspeakable. So yeah, I don't know about libraries, Joy. Here, I haven't been to a library in so long. Are our libraries here open here in Ontario? Does anyone know? I would imagine not. Yeah. Anyway, Kim would say, don't talk about that stuff during Collage Jam because it is meant to be a place to get away from that, but it is hard to get away from it these days. So I apologize. I'm not trying to upset anyone, but I'm also I and a lot of other people are very upset, right? So, and rightly so. But I'm trying to do a little color therapy with my collage. I just lost my glue sheet. Anyone see that? There it is, hiding underneath. You do it from an app called Libby. Oh, that's great. Yeah. Not yet in London. Yeah. Curbside pickup only for holds. That's great, actually, Annie. Thank you. Yes, I'm afraid you're right, Judy. Yeah, the orange and blue is yummy. I agree. I'm just going to get a few glued down, and then I'll show you if I can find my glue stick. There it is. I'm losing it here. Let's get a little more light on here. Is that better? Maybe, hopefully. I'm just laughing, Joy, because she said a glue sheet. Is it a special material? Absolutely not. It's just all it is just some scrap paper that I used as my overrun sheet. So, for instance, I'm about to glue this piece, and so I put it upside down, and I just use it to sort of take it. It means I can run right off the edges, and it gets sticky, but then it dries, and I just reuse it over and over again until it's like too coated in glue. But it is really just so that I can get the glue right out to the edges without worrying about what it's getting on. So it's the opposite of anything precious or special. It's just a scrap, but I wanted to find out where it was because I needed it. Right. So Jane says that her favorite thing to use for a glue sheet, a runoff sheet, is a sturdy magazine cover that's got high gloss. Oftentimes the pages of the magazine are glossy paper, but the outside is actually like either laminated or coated with and is more sturdy. So it makes it nice and slick, and presumably if a little glue does get on it, it makes it easier to peel something off of it. It is more distracting because it has images on it. I like something that is white so that I can see what I'm doing. That is, unless I'm working on a piece that's white on the back, which sometimes happens. But a nice coated sheet of paper would make sense, Jane. Thank you. I think I want to have some whites in my collage, but I think maybe something like white text or text would be more interesting than plain white. So maybe I'll use that instead. Huh. I was thinking about putting clouds in, and maybe I'll use my pinking shears to cut some cloud. See if that cloud is so pale it might not work as well as I thought. Looks more like a pair of lips floating in the sky, like, than anything. Wrong scissors. I can tell I picked up the pinking shears because they're really heavy, so I want the normal scissors. There they are. They look very similar otherwise. Jane says she has a bunch of cut up flat wood, perfect for a substrate painting or collage. It's raw wood, so would you suggest to prepare it? Okay, so if it's raw, I would suggest just like you would a wood panel, like if you buy a wood panel from the art store, I would suggest what we were talking about, I think it was last week or the week before, which is a first coat of watered down polymer medium, which will soak into the wood somewhat, and it will also raise the fibers. So paint that in, let it dry, give it a very light sanding, and then a coat of normal, not watered down polymer medium. Let that dry, give it a light sanding, and then you're ready to collage. That would be my suggestion. I was about to cut a zigzag out of the text, and then I noticed that this is what's called flush left, rag right. So the right-hand side of the text is erratic, which is actually helps for reading. And I noticed, oh, it's already got a bit of a zigzag, so I'm going to cut another zigzag a little bit above it, and maybe there will be this interaction between these sort of somewhat zigzaggy ends of the text and the zigzag I cut above them. We'll just see whether that may be a good idea that actually doesn't work in practice, but it might be interesting. So let's see. I'll try and make this zigzag even more erratic than usual. I'll apologize in advance if I'm a bit slow getting back to any comments, but absolutely comment, questions. You just may have to wait a little extra. This is why I need a break. My brain can't string sentences together. Oh, don't worry, Jane. I was happy to repeat it. Okay, so Annie, so just to recap, so if you're preparing raw wood, like either a wood panel or just a piece of wood that you're going to either paint or collage on, first coat is acrylic polymer medium. So that's the reasonably fluid acrylic medium, but watered down a bit so that it actually soaks into the wood. Let that dry. And what will happen is it will raise the nap or the fibers of the wood so it'll get fuzzy. So sand that, light sanding. Then, what I then do is I vacuum it with my shop vac to get any sawdust off of it. And then another, I say a shop vac, but any vacuum. It doesn't need to be a shop vac, just any vacuum with your dusting bell. And then another coat of not watered down medium. And and then a very light sanding on that, and you should be good to go. And so the reason you do that is twofold. One is because the wood isn't acid free, so it will sometimes affect and change the color of things that you put on it unless you sort of seal it in. The other reason is if you start gluing just to plain wood, what will happen is the glue will soak into the wood more than you want, and end up that your join isn't that good, because instead of joining the wood and the paper or whatever you're gluing to it, a lot of the glue ends up in the wood and not in the join. So oh, thanks, Mia, but don't worry, I'm doing my best. I'm sorry that I'm flipping it up and down because I have to read the comments, but yeah, no worries. I'm doing my best. I definitely watch people where they, for instance, I sometimes do cycling videos on YouTube, and right after lockdown, they were doing live cycling sessions, so this these men and women from England on the Global Cycling Network, which is something that I follow for exercise videos. They were like, they're on their bikes riding, and then they're trying to read the comments, and then they're okay, now we're doing this, and then they're reading oh, hold on. So it's not perfect, but it's certainly doable. And they certainly had it harder than I do. And they had people from all around the world, and like thousands of comments coming in. They were doing their best, right? So we all do our best. I'm feeling like I'm composing some sort of childish mountain scene here with my zigzags. I was kind of drawn to the fact that it looked like water and mountains, but now I want to defeat that a little bit, I think. Sometimes you get a little off track. Something that I do a lot, which maybe it's a good idea, maybe it's a crutch, I don't know, but I like folding things to see, especially with magazine pages, what's on the other side. So I'd cut this piece out, and I thought, oh, I wonder what's on the back. Oh, well, it's mostly black with a little bit of white. So I thought, oh, well, what would happen if, instead of being quite so predictable as laying it down on the white, if I fold some of it sort of at a bit of an angle to, of course, I can't do it and hold it all at once, but something like that. There, it's one piece, but sort of folded back, so I'm getting a bit of black zigzag and a bit of white zigzag, which is kind of fun. So I'm gonna see what I can see if I can make that work in some interesting way. Maybe it's a case of zigging and then zagging with the zigzag. All right, so simple minds are easily amused, but I don't even know what I'm going to do with it, but that's kind of fun that it's sort of gone this way, then this way, then this way. A zigzagging zigzag. I might make it a little more pronounced. Yeah, so do I. I really like that, Mia. I really like that the colors in that purple one. Not showing. So something that's happening right now is that now I'm playing with that idea of folding things back and trying to fit them into an already started idea and thinking, okay, so maybe this one needs to move aside and it is a place for not for this idea, and maybe I do this idea with something else. So I'm going to cut maybe a couple more and play a little more with that sort of folding back idea. And see what else I've got that could do that. Because maybe you sort of make discoveries as you go along, don't you? And sometimes it's a really interesting discovery, and it's more interesting than where you had been heading until you came up with that. But then it's like, okay, but does it really belong in this piece that I've got started? And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. So I am orange that I was like. So I'm going to start a different piece. I tell you, always starting again. I'll never finish anything at this rate. Unearthing my pencil from underneath my layers of collage stuff. It could be another cloud, that's for sure. Yeah, that's right, Rebecca. I do work small, but so I can finish. I do work on the occasional big thing, but I do like to work small because I do have a big difficulty with finishing, I have to admit. And so smaller sort of stacks my deck. I still have lots of unfinished small stuff, but if I worked larger, I would have even more unfinished stuff. Oh, where did that go? There it is. Okay, got it. I got it. I haven't lost it. I'll be checking in with the comments again in a minute. So if you've commented in the last couple minutes, bear with me. I'll be back in a minute. So Mia asks an interesting question, guys. She asks, is it better to start smaller for beginners? Jane is going to laugh because I am going to say it depends yet again. So this is alarmingly predictable for me. I think whatever makes you more comfortable can be a good thing, especially when you're starting out. As you progress as an artist, I think it can be good to get outside of your comfort zone. If you normally work small, try and make something big. It's a lot different. If you normally work large, try and work small. It's a lot different. It's challenging, and it makes you more versatile. But I think when you're starting out, it's good to do what feels comfortable until you find your feet. Now, small really works well for me because I've always been sort of finicky, good with small details. Like when I was young, I spent hours and hours and hours making like little models, like model kits, like so many kids my age did. And so painting little tiny soldiers and tiny like car parts and stuff like that. So knife skills, painting skills, and fine motor control. Some people that is anathema to, right? They say, unless I can get my arm involved, it drives me crazy. So for them, a larger scale would be more comfortable than a smaller scale. So I think it depends. And Annie says she's a beginner collager and she finds it depends on the subject. I have to try not to put meaning into everything, just have fun. Absolutely. Meaning is great. You'll often find meaning after the fact, I've noticed. I have noticed that, oh, this seems to be what my art is about, and I never even realized it once I made it and then looked at it afterwards. So you can absolutely start with a meaning in mind, but you can make it and then figure out what it's about later. It's kind of making art is kind of like self-therapy in some ways, isn't it? Because you get to look at the way your mind works. You have sort of like this visual record of what you've been thinking and how you have, how you've thought, how you felt. I often look at pieces, even if the emotions I was having making it were completely different than the content. I will look at it years later and think, oh yeah, I can remember how that felt. Or I can remember what I was listening to when I was making that art. So it's very interesting associatively. Yeah, and so Lillian is saying for acrylic painting, and I think with a lot of painting, smaller is more difficult because you need control, right? The width of your arm span from chest to outstretched arm is perfect, right? So you're a bigger, you like the more arm action, right? Yeah, I agree, Francois. Especially, yeah, if you are like, I can cut out little tiny things, and then it's like, well, how do I even get glue on this thing without destroying it, right? So I've used like a toothpick to glue on tiny little bits, and that's why I don't do like, this is about as small as I like, and I find this is a comfortable size, which is 6 by 6 inches. I make a lot of things in squares, so that's a comfort level too for me. Not always do I work in squares, but that is just a personal preference. So sadly, again, Jane, it depends. I'm always leery of anyone who has the one true path. You know what I'm talking about? They have discovered something that works for them, and they think, oh, this will work for everyone else. Well, it will work for some other people, but not everyone, right? No matter what we're doing, whether it's art, whether it's meditation, whether it's running a marathon, whether it's feeding your family, whether it's, you name, making a budget, we all have things that are individual to us and different values. We have different metabolisms. We have different strengths and weaknesses. We have different life experience. So I think the best thing to do is ask other people what they think, and then listen to why they think what they think, and then run that through your own filter and see, well, does that apply to me? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to take that. Or does it not apply to me? Like, oh, they're more of a this kind of person, I'm more of a that kind of person, so that particular advice doesn't work for me, but it was good to hear anyway. So I always tell my artists, run it through your own filter to see whether it sounds like it's relevant to you. You'll know the more you tune into especially as you gain experience making art, you'll know when you hear something that resonates. It's like, oh yeah, and that's when you're hearing something that you need to hear at that particular point in time. And that's sort of where that whole idea of teachers sort of appear at the right and when you need them, right? Because you hear something and you go, oh wow, that I really needed to hear that right now, right? So that's how you know you're onto something, or someone who has something to teach you at that point. And maybe 2 years earlier or 6 months later they wouldn't be as resonant, but now they are. So yeah, smaller work definitely takes patience, Ruth. Absolutely. So do bigger stuff, right? And beauty is in the eye of the beholder, for sure, for sure. I'm just making sure I got caught up with all the comments. Yeah, okay, good. For the moment, anyway. That hush is me thinking, so sorry about that. Just got need a minute to think about this. I will be back to talking in just a second. just have this little idea that I've got going that I just need a moment to think about it and get it glued down. And then I'll see how we are on comments. All right, I'm going to want to go there, like that. An eighth of an inch from there. Okay. So now I'll get it glued. I'm just reading comments, getting caught up a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. There's that idea again. Mia's saying that how valuable it is she's saying in the comments how valuable it is to get different input from different people, and that's so true, isn't it? And that's why I love like-minded groups. Like-minded is not same-minded, right? If we all had the exact same perspective, there would be no advantage to spending time together, right? Because we wouldn't have interesting insights from each other. Whereas, you know, you ask a question here, I give you my 2 cents worth, other people give you their 2 cents worth, and you can sort of get a bunch of different perspectives. So absolutely, that's one of the best things about this, and I love this group for that. So yeah, thank you. Yes, I like to give different perspectives. You know, my perspective is my perspective, but if you've had other instructors, they have their perspective, and that's why it's also valuable to have many different instructors, many different mentors, many different artist friends to get different input, right? So, oh, thank you about the, yeah, no, I like that. That actually came out. This is like really simple, but I really love what it's doing, like just flipping back and forth between black and white on a sort of mid-value ground. Sometimes simpler is better. So I may add a bit more to this, but I kind of like what's there right now. So do I try to go with certain size that could be easily framed? I don't, but I do. I think one of the reasons I do work with squares is you can usually find square frames for sure. I also like really tall, skinny, or wide horizontal formats but they're harder to find frames for. So that's like a situation where it's better to be maybe on a wood panel. So because a lot of frames are more or less, you know, a little bit longer than they are tall, or they're square. You don't find very many that are long and skinny, unless it's custom. Of course, you can frame custom, but then that adds cost, right? So Kim and I will often think about, this is the designer in us, right? We'll think about, okay, do we know we can get a frame, and then we'll make work to fit, or we make work that doesn't require frames, so we know we don't have to worry about frames. So that is one reason why squares are good. I'm used to working with squares, and I kind of find squares interesting. They're a bit more challenging to work with, I find, because they're equal distance in both directions. I don't know that that's a full answer, but hopefully that's partially. Um, Annie, that is a loaded question. And that is the part answer. There are several other rooms in the house that look very much like that. The garage looks like that. The basement looks like that. So, and in part because we need to cull. So I always urge students to err on the side of not tossing stuff that is recent. If you go back and look at something that you did 5 years ago and you think, yeah, that has no redeeming value and it's been 5 years and I don't see anything good about it, then yeah, pitch it. But don't pitch something out that you did recently because you might not know yet what it has to teach you, right? Sometimes you do something, everyone's had this experience. You do a piece of artwork and you look at it and you think, ugh, what's that? And then the next morning you come down and see it, like, that's not so bad. What was I so concerned about? Actually, it's pretty good. It just needs a couple little things here. And then, like, glad I didn't pitch it or paint it over right away, right? So you need a little bit of perspective. And you also need, like, the trail of breadcrumbs that shows how your artistic progression is going. You need to be able to look back 6 months, a year, 2 years to sort of see how things are going. So don't throw out the new stuff. Definitely consider throwing out stuff that even after 10 years, you think, oh, I don't know why I don't need to keep that. So, or repurpose it, right? Of course, throwing out is one way, but repurposing it's even better. Paint over it, work again, collaging. But sometimes you see something, this part's working, but I never knew what to do with it, but now I can fix it. You can, or put something new into it to just try. Yeah, so. A brayer after gluing, absolutely. A brayer definitely gives you even pressure, right? I kind of like the feeling I get from my fingertips because I get I don't know, tactile, right? But there are definitely times when, like, fingers or hands, they're not even, right? They have pressure points, whether you're using the fingertips or the full hand, there are parts that are going to skip over. Whereas a brayer, when you roller or something, it's even pressure all the way across. So, but I've also, like, had it catch on something and then roll a piece up, which is like, right? So if I'm doing it with fingers, it's like, okay, oh, right? So, so it depends. But yeah, absolutely, more even pressure that way. Order and chaos. I try for some order, but there isn't much. And so Annie Mira, who's quite an experienced collage artist, and a lot of us experienced collage artists are hoarders. So she says she's gone back 5 years later and finished pieces, changed them, made them into something new. So absolutely. Oh, that's a great. So Ruth, who's just chimed in here. Hi, Ruth. How are you? Good to see you. Thanks for coming along. She says she journals about her pieces. And that's a really great idea because pieces have things to teach you that unless you spend a little bit of time with them, not all pieces, right? But sometimes if you spend a bit of time with them, a little intentional time, right? Quiet down, study them, jot down what you're thinking, what you're feeling, definitely will help you appreciate what you've done and maybe more about what it's about. So she says, especially now during the pandemic, I get a lot of teaching out of it. So Ruth is nothing if not a deep thinker and feeler. And if you've seen her collages under the moniker Belinda Boo14, on the Collage Jam, you know her pieces are just heavily laden with meaning and emotion. They're the ones that are, they have that in them. So yeah, I think journaling it's a very wise idea. Anytime you sort of like, and I'm not a musician, but what if you like looked at a piece and tried to write a musical composition about it, right? That's another way of like translating one expression into another. Yeah, cool. Yeah, Mia's saying, Mira, love your work. Yes. No, her work is amazing. She's great. Hi, Philippa. Is this the first time you've chimed in? Good to see you. Welcome aboard. She says every time she does a painting is, oh my God, this didn't work. And then the next day she sees it and it's actually quite good. Yes. So anytime you feel the urge to paint something out or put a slash in it, or, just leave the room, let it be, start on something else, go do some gardening or whatever else, and take a look at it the next day or the day after that, and you'd be surprised. I think that's how a lot of artists find out. They sort of learn, that tricky thing about when do you stop a piece, right? Lots of people go like, how do you know when it's done? All artists struggle with that one. But we often go too far, let's put it that way. And so sometimes you get to a certain point and you're either too tired, you have to go to bed, or I got to make dinner now, or whatever, and you leave it. You think it's got a long way to go, but I'm out of time, so and then you come back and you go, oh, actually it only needs, no, actually I think it's done. And I thought I had miles to go, right? So you sort of see it with fresh eyes and you go, oh, okay, so maybe I don't need to go as far as I thought. So, all right, well, I see we're getting close to the end already. The time, I never feel like the time is right. It feels like it should have been still about half an hour to go, but there you go. As always, I'm going to go a little beyond because, right? I'm just thinking about what else is going to go into this one. And I really like that zigzag, and I find it's like really bold, really strong. And so I'm thinking about something over here, but I want it to be for sure secondary. So I'm just thinking about what that might be. No, it's this way. That's what I was thinking. Find my scissors underneath the pile. Oh yeah, Mia, I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah, dates would be useful, right? That's why they started putting those automatic daters on things. But then they were on the fronts of your photographs most of the time, and that's obnoxious. On the back, that's useful. And Annie, you're saying a hand torn zigzag. That's an interesting idea. I don't even know whether I could tear a zigzag. I could try it though. That's kind of fun. Find my knife again. All right. Interesting. I really find these cutting mats with grids helpful. I never used to use the grids because I didn't trust them, but now I've found that they're very useful for making things reasonably square when you're cutting on them. And certainly faster than trying to use a set square, which is what I used to do. So, all right. I have a couple of thoughts about what to do, but well, I had one thought, and I'm thinking Annie might be right that this torn zigzag might be the thing. So, and I have to say, Annie, that when I first heard it, I thought, yeah, not likely. But I thought, why not try it? And because I know that enough, I know myself well enough to know that I don't know, if you know what I mean. So I thought, no harm in trying it, and it's surprised me. I don't even know why it surprised me, but it's actually, I really like it. So I think it's what's going to happen. So I'm going to glue that down. Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Zara. Thanks so much for coming out to join us. We'll see you next time. I assume that sounds like a sign off. So we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thank you for joining us. And he says, yay, LOL. So yeah, let me just get my glue stick capped here for a second. or try to. They've made the threads on the Yoo-hoo very difficult to get on straight, which is annoying me, because otherwise it's a great product. So I made it very subtle. It's sort of a slightly darker red on a sort of mid-red. They're both sort of red-violet. But I love the way it echoes this stuff without being in your face. And that's sort of exactly what I was looking for. So that might be done. I'm not sure. I'll probably put it aside and look at it a little later and see if it needs anything else. And yes, it does have a dragon look to it. And Joy had said something with a little texture. And in fact, I'm not sure whether I can get you so that you can see it, but the torn edge does have a bit of texture. Let's see if we can get a little more light on it. It's relatively subtle as far as texture goes, but it does have more texture than the flat magazine papers. So I might do a little more thinking on that, but it's close, I think. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Philippa. Yeah. So I should talk about. So we are back on July 13th. And what I'm going to do tomorrow, for those of you who are hardcore, is I'm going to post 2 themes for the 2 weeks we're going to be gone. So you won't have me and we won't have our little community thing. But if you need, if you want to keep going without the actual jam, but like post stuff in the Facebook and so on, I will give you a couple of themes that you can work on next Monday and the Monday after that. And that will give you something to work with. There's something else I was going to say. No, I think that's it. Okay. So, oh, Philippa, you're sweet. Thank you. I think, yeah, I sharing. I mean, that's important now to me. I never used to be that good at sharing, but I am trying to share because people have been so generous. The people who I've learned from have shared so much of their knowledge and their experience with me. So, so I'm trying to pay that forward now. So, and it feels good. It feels like what I should do. So, yeah. Oh, and thank you guys. Yes, I will have a good time off. I'm actually teaching this week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then I have a couple of weeks off, which will be good. Yeah, so looking forward to that. Yeah, you'll see me Wednesday morning, Jane, absolutely. And glad you guys enjoyed the jam, and I hope I kept up reasonably well with your comments. And you know, I am so far behind. I haven't even had a chance to look at what you guys posted last week. So I'm going to get a chance to do that maybe tonight and get caught up on comments and maybe post a few of the things that I might even use my time off to get a couple of the collages that I started but didn't finish in the jams done, because that would be nice. So thank you, Alice. I will. And yeah, so I guess we should probably wrap it up. I really appreciate everyone coming out. I appreciate you posting. I appreciate you commenting and helping each other with all the different things that we're trying to help each other with. So I really like that. Oh, thanks, Judy. Yes, no, yeah, I will have a good break, and I'll definitely, you know, I just thought it would just be for the first little while of COVID, but I love doing it. I need a break, but I really love doing it. So yeah. Oh, thanks, Stacy. You're very welcome. Yes, Rebecca, I'll definitely pass that along, and hi to Kirk, and we'll see you. And if there are some of the jams that you have missed, I don't know if you've seen every last one, but if you're sort of going into withdrawal next Monday, you can always watch one of the replays of the ones that you might have missed on YouTube. I have retitled the videos on YouTube by what the theme was, so that you can go and say, oh yeah, the diagrams one, I didn't get that one, or the you know, whatever it was, or the message in a bottle. I didn't do that one. That might be interesting. So you can find them by their theme rather than just date. So yeah, so that because I figured that would be helpful. So yeah, if you want to do that, that's another way you can sort of bridge the gap. Okay. Thanks, Mira. And thanks so much for coming out. And we'll see you next week. Not next week, in a few weeks. See you next time. Thanks so much, guys. I'm going to type a little sign off. And everyone stay safe. Big hugs, and we'll see you back on July 13th, okay? Bye. Bye, Annie.